Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So you have a bunch of chords, some words written on a page, some instruments, and maybe even some melodies. And any mere mortal would have no idea what to do next. But there are some that can turn shapes and sounds into timeless, beautiful, uplifting, life-changing moments in time. The songwriter can fill and break your heart with one hook and one lyric. Here's Neil with 10 songwriter facts.
Thank you very much, Pav. So here we go. So, Paul McCartney is the most successful songwriter of all time. His song Yesterday was the most covered, or is the most covered song. Max Martin has written 25 Billboard Top 100 number ones for the likes of Backstreet Boys, Kelly Clarkson, Britney Spears and Taylor Swift, to name but a few, but claims he can't sing. The biggest selling star who didn't write his own songs was Elvis Presley. And another super selling star who didn't write his own songs is none other than Frank Sinatra. Rod Temperton. Not a name you might know, but you'll know his songs. He famously wrote Thriller, but he also wrote more, including for Shaka Khan, George Benson and Quincy Jones, just to name a few. The longest song ever written is Earth Aeneas, Symphony of the Crown, at a whopping 48 hours, 39 minutes and 35 seconds. And according to the Guinness Book of World Records, Napalm Death's 1989 song You Suffer is the world's shortest song, written at just 1.3 seconds long. And the oldest song to be known to have been written is the Hungarian hymn number 6, which is believed to be at least 35,000 years old. And the average song length written is 3 minutes and 42 seconds long.
That's it, isn't it, Neil?
That is it. That is it. That is it.
Well, we are here this week to try and work out who the number one songwriter of all time is. And joining us, ladies and gentlemen, is one of our Patreon pals, all the way from the US of A. It's the lovely Crystal. Welcome back, Crystal.
Hey there.
It's so good to have you back. So good to have you back. Right, the question I wanted to ask about songwriters. Now, when I was trying to work out my top 10, which was very, very hard.
Very hard.
I'm going to ask both of you, obviously, but starting with you, Crystal, how have you worked out your top 10 songwriters? Now, is it songwriters that you feel have had the most impact, or in regards to the songs that you love yourself? So, Crystal, which way have you gone?
For me, I really went impact to me. I have always been very moved by lyrics. And so at different points in my life, different songs, different songwriters have really impacted me. So that's really where I drew from, as opposed to what other people might feel are the best.
Right. Okay. Neil, what about you?
Very, very similar. It's all people or songwriters that are personal to myself and mean a lot to me through the songs they've written and the career they've had or had. So that's how I did it.
Because the other thing you got to look at when it comes to, I was just in music in general, and I'm sure that my parents said the same thing in the 80s when I was listening to Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Spandau Ballet and all of those kind of bands. That like, oh God, this is just throwaway music. No one's going to be singing this in 30, 40 years time. And when I listened to things like even the big stars of today, like say Ed Sheeran and Harry Styles, I think, are people really going to be singing those songs in like 40 years' time when you think of people still love the Rolling Stones and still love the Beatles? I don't know. Crystal, do you agree with that? Or is that the sort of thing you think about?
I think it really, as people get older, they drift back to what was important to them when they were younger. So, yeah, I think in 30 years, you're going to have a generation who looks back on today's music and remembers it fondly and keeps it alive. Not
Mm.
necessarily all of it, but I think there's definitely going to be those artists, those songs that continue.
Yeah.
Completely agree. I think it's all generational, isn't it? I think the generation that are listening to the likes of Ed Sheeran, I won't say too much about him. I'll probably
No,
get
I
in
know.
even more
I know
trouble.
what you're thought, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not the thoughts. I just suddenly thought I might get into trouble. But the likes of that, I think they will last because it's of their time, isn't it? And music is relevant to what you were doing at that time. So the 80s were very precious to ourselves, Pav, and things like that. And that's why we hark back to them. And likewise for the older generations back to the 60s. It's all part of growing up, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, but I mean, people like, say, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards or Lennon and McCartney, they were there at the start. So the stuff that they were doing is the stuff that, without Lennon and McCartney, I don't think there would have been Oasis. Do you know what I mean?
Wouldn't have been, would there?
Yeah, so it's those kind of songwriting styles, but because they were the first ones, they're held more in high regard.
Don't forget what John Lennon said. If there wasn't Elvis Presley, there wouldn't have been the Beatles.
Exactly.
He famously said that. So
but then obviously Elvis didn't write his own stuff. It was
no, but he was
all these amazing songwriters.
Yeah, but obviously a lot of his songs and his music was inspired by like the the gospel and that sort of music, wasn't it, when it came through? So
and the rhythm and blues and
I think that's all it is inspiration and it's nice that songwriters continue to inspire young people to keep them going.
Yeah. Well, I'm fascinated to know what you both have in your top 10. So Crystal, kick us off with your number 10.
Okay, so for my number 10, it's the woman, the myth, the legend, Miss Dolly Parton.
Oh,
okay,
what a legend.
Now, I will say I had I think about 30 different ones on my like pre-list, if you like, and Dolly Parton was definitely one of them.
Yeah, she's just, I mean, she can tell a story song, and I mean, she wrote "I Will Always Love You." I mean, everybody, knows the Whitney Houston version, but she's the OG. She wrote it, she sang it, and then she's got, the fun songs like 9 to 5, which really says something. If you listen to the lyrics, it's really talking about what women go through in the workplace, even now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and Jolene. I mean, even if the only song she ever wrote was Jolene, it's just an amazing song.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you with Dolly Parton. I mean, she's not in my top 10, but she was up there in the sort of high teens.
She's written timeless classics. That's what she's done, hasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's a hard thing to do. I mean, it's easy to write, well, not easy, but it's easier to write songs at the time rather than something that's going to stand the test of time.
Well, that's a mark, I think, of a good songwriter, is somebody that those songs will transcend the decades. Yeah. It doesn't matter what decade that song comes out. It will be a classic. And the one thing I would say for my top 10, and I've written songs in my time, right? So there are times when you can very simplify songwriting, which I think is what I can do. I only know like 4 chords on a guitar. And if you know 4 chords, you can basically play the entire songbook of Oasis, because that's basically what it is. And you can write, and I think as much as I love Noel Gallagher, and again, he's not in my top 10, his songs can be very simple. And, you could easily write. So that's why he's not in my top 10. I've picked people that I listen to their songs and think, how did you write that? How did you come with just the melodies or the arrangements? But Dolly Parton is one of those ones that you wouldn't know, or I wouldn't know half the songs that she's written. But it blew my socks off when I found out that she'd written "I Will Always Love You," because it was a Whitney Houston song. And then, because I think, wasn't it in Best Little Whorehouse in Texas? Wasn't that the movie that she wrote?
It was, and the story behind it is she was partnered with Porter Wagner in the 60s, and they had a falling out. And on his deathbed, she actually wrote that song for him, to say, no matter what we've been through, I will always love you.
Wow.
Well,
That's
there
good.
you
I'm
go.
glad that was like that, because if she'd have sat on his deathbed and wrote "He's gonna die," would have been really nasty, wouldn't it? Don't think it's been quite a bigger hit. I don't think, for Whitney Houston. A few years later. That's a good story. Okay, then Neil, you're number 10.
It's Benny and Bjorn.
Oh, that's my number 5.
Is it?
Yes.
There we are. So, well, we talk about timeless classics and foot tapping songs. They're the masters of it. For people that don't know, Ben and Bjorn were from ABBA. In case people don't know.
Are you going to try and say their last name? Or
No. Could you?
Benny Anderson and Bjorn Ulvaeus. I think that's how you're supposed to say it.
It's very
Scandinavian, isn't it?
Very nice.
Hello, family.
But their songs have held the test of time, and it's testament now with the theatre in London that they've got, and the stage show that they have. What is it? Holograms of themselves, but
yeah.
And through to the musical, the Mamma Mia musical movies. I mean, it's just I've never met anybody that doesn't like at least one ABBA song. There we are. That's how bold a statement I'll make.
Crystal's gonna blow you over now. She's gonna say,
No,
"I hate them." Oh no.
I love ABBA. I can't help but smile when I think of them, because it's you go with Dancing Queen. It's how can you not like bop around and smile with that?
Yeah.
Exactly. And they'll have these boppy like tunes, but the lyrics have got a little bit darker meaning in some of them, haven't they, if you listen to them?
Yeah.
So
they are one of those songwriters that one song, like you say, you can be bopping to at a wedding or something like that, and then the next minute they are like heartbreaking tunes with beautiful melodies. That's why they're my number 5. I mean, you can, again, I've spoken so much on these music podcasts that we do about ABBA. They're indestructible songs, but it's one hell of a skill to keep writing such great their greatest hits. I don't know if we'd ever do a top 10 greatest hits albums, but that would have to be up there, because I don't think
it'd be in the top 10 for sure.
They don't have to be. There isn't a bad song. You could pick 20 of their songs that would go.
They do 2 volumes as well, haven't they?
I think they did. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think they did.
Yeah,
crazy. Right, my number 10 is probably going to be controversial. And he wasn't in my top 10 originally, and I thought I have to put him in, and it's John Lennon. He's probably going to be higher in a lot of people's, or maybe even number 1. I don't know. But in regards to the Beatles, his songs are not my favorite Beatles songs, but you can't deny just what he brought to music. Him and McCartney together, but I mean they didn't write all of their early stuff. They basically wrote together, didn't they? And then they shared the songwriting credit, even though, as you see from the Get Back documentary, they helped each other with all their songs. Not a massive fan of his solo stuff. I mean, there's obviously there's some great songs, but I think there's also a lot of, once Yoko Ono got involved, there was a lot of experimental avant-garde stuff.
What's wrong with all of that?
What, the yeah stuff I just can't be doing.
But you can't argue with the perfection that is Imagine.
Absolutely. Exactly. And there's I mean, Woman is a great song, and the other ones, which I can't remember now. Give Peace a Chance is a great song. Working Class Hero is a great song. There are great songs that he's done. And even I sort of thought, is that right to put John Lennon at number 10 in the greatest songwriters of all time?
There's no right or wrong answer, is
right.
There
is no right or wrong.
It's not.
And there's part of me that's sort of thinking, is it cooler? Is it more trendy to put him up higher because he is an icon? And I don't know. But strange that neither of you have said anything. So that either means he's not in your top 10s or he's number 1. So
that's an early spoiler, if not.
Go on then, Crystal, your number 9, please.
My number 9, we'll see if this one's controversial. Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Okay.
No,
Um, again, harking back to the lyrics, I don't know a girl who was a teenager in the 80s who didn't listen to Somebody on repeat.
mm,
Um, Blasphemous Rumors, People Are People, Master and Servant. I mean, and he said a lot in his songs, but they were really interesting musically as well.
mm.
And I think that's again, it's a function of me being a child of the 80s. I think there aren't a lot of people I think that are going to have Martin Gore on their lists, but for me, when I started thinking about it, he could not be on mine.
Mm.
No, and what a change. I mean, in their style, really, wasn't it? They went from being this sort of synth pop little outfit to the emo goth loving. It was a huge transition. It was almost shocking if you were around at the time.
I
But
can make it was Personal Jesus, wasn't it? Was the one that they sort of all grunged up a little bit at,
was it
wasn't
Personal
Yeah.
Jesus?
I think
or
it
was
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because David Gahan grew his hair out, didn't he? And
That's
he
it.
had
Yeah.
tattoos
Well, and he
everywhere.
got his own demons, of course.
Yeah. It always seems to me, I don't know whether do the Americans like Depeche Mode more than in the Britons? I don't know.
I don't
it just
think
it
so.
always seems
I
to
mean-
me that anybody we've spoken to say that they love Depeche Mode.
Mm.
Really?
Yeah,
For me, growing up in Southern California, listening to K-Rock, Depeche Mode was in top echelon.
Well, it was K-Rock that broke Depeche Mode in America, wasn't it?
Yeah, K-Rock and Richard Blade.
Yeah.
And it surprises me that they're not as popular, hearing that they're not as popular in the UK.
Mm. Oh, I think they're popular.
I think they are because when they tour, I was going to say when they do their tours, I mean they sell out so quick, even in this country. So they're gone. I mean,
and obviously they're massive in Europe as well, aren't they?
Yeah, and I've got friends that are absolutely mad on them and will pay any money to see them. So
yeah, crazy.
Was
anyway,
it going back? I think it was Personal Jesus before Enjoy the Silence, because I can't remember which way around it is, but it was either one of those songs that they changed their style, wasn't it?
Enjoy the Silence was before, I think.
Because that's quite that album. I can't remember the name of the album. That had gothy moments all through that. So
yeah,
it was an interesting transition though between the two, wasn't it?
Very much, because I can remember the actress Lysette Anthony was in the video for Personal Jesus.
That's right.
Yeah, sort of like with a low cut top on. I can't remember why I remember. I honestly,
well, still is a beautiful lady.
Yes, indeed. Go on then, Neil. You're number 9.
So it's the wonderful Sam Cooke, the man with the voice that I could just listen to all day. I love his songs. I mean, obviously they don't speak volumes to me because of my circumstance, but they're just moving and beautiful, and it's quite often his greatest hits that I will go to sleep listening to, that puts me at my resting phase. Are you a big fan of Sam Cooke, Crystal?
I love Sam Cooke, and I'm curious to know, is it more his voice or his writing?
Well, some of the songs when his little love songs, and the fact that he wrote them himself at the time back then when a lot of those artists didn't write their own songs like that. They had other people. But they do, they speak volumes. I mean, I think Wonderful World is just a genius bit of songwriting. I think the lyrics are wonderful. That when you listen to it, you almost think they sound basic, but they're not. It's really quite a clever little song when it's written. And what was that, in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s?
Yeah.
So and it is his voice as well. I think the guy has probably had one of the best voices ever.
Always reminds me of the movie Witness.
Wow, The Wonderful World.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Harrison Ford trying to sing it.
But yeah, I love his songs. I he's big up there, and people are always shocked when I put him in these sort of things. Really, you listen to that? Yes, I listen to it a lot. And of course, if you ever go to Graceland, well, I don't know whether it's still the same, but when I went to Graceland many years ago, the Sam Cooke album was still on the turntable in the jungle room. It was the last record Elvis listened to before he passed.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
There you go. That's a little fact for you.
Well done, Neil.
Yeah.
Very good. Why wasn't that in your top 10 facts at the start of the episode?
Well, because
That's
I wanted
11
to
facts
I,
we got
I
now.
wanted to
We
say
can't
it
say,
myself.
yeah, we can't
It
say
was
we
one
don't
that
give
I
our
wanted to
listeners
give.
value for money. We've got
Yeah.
11 facts today.
It's one
Well
that
done.
I learnt from my own travels.
Well, that's fantastic. Okay. My number 9 was the lead singer and songwriter for ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, and it's Jeff Lynne. I was just watching TV a couple of weeks ago, and they had ELO live at Wembley from a couple of years ago. And I watched it for about half an hour, and it was a little bit like when you listen to Crowded House. You don't realize how many hit songs they actually. And I thought I'm going to watch it until there's a song I don't like, and I watched it to the end of the concert because it was like you don't realize how many great songs. Now I know some people say that a lot of their songs sound the same and they're very, very samey. And even when Jeff Lynne did what they called Traveling Wilburys, that had the same kind of sound to it, and he was always like classed as the fifth Beatle because of George Harrison's friendship with him and stuff. But my God, it was banger after banger. It was like these songs are just fantastic, and every single one of them just written by Jeff Lynne. I actually started listening to some of the greatest hits albums on Apple Music as well, and it is just every song written by Jeff Lynne. God knows how much he's worth. I mean, he must be worth an absolute fortune. And it's amazing. He must be getting into his 70s now.
He's probably in his 70s.
Still got wonderful brown hair. I don't know how he does it.
Is it natural?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. No, I mean,
now you've broken my illusion.
He's not got like a spot of grey in his beard or nothing. Beautifully curled hair. And I thought, well, that's what sex, drugs, and rock and roll does for you. All these rockers, and I'll tell you now, I wish I was a rocker. Because you look at all these rockers that they've done like sex, drugs, and rock and roll for 50 years, and they've all got amazing heads of hair. Look at Keith. I was going to say Keith Harris again. Keith Richards. Look at Rod Stewart. Look at Mick Jagger. Look at all these rockers, and they've got amazing
Steven
hair.
Tyler.
Look, you think how? And it's obviously that the sex and the drugs and the rock and roll, that lifestyle just keeps their hair perfect. It shows you how much sex, drugs, and rock and roll I have when I've got no hair at all. There you go. I think that just shows you. But yeah, so Jeff Lynne for me, fantastic songwriter.
I've forgotten about him, to be honest. Not in a bad way. I just, well.
Okay.
We actually saw him in a concert in LA a few years ago. It was fantastic.
Really?
Oh,
Was that just him or as the Electric Light Orchestra?
It was as ELO, but at this point, he's pretty much ELO.
Yeah. So
it was fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would recommend anybody get a chance to go. And the beautiful thing was, like, they kept showing the crowd, and the crowd were obviously all in their late 40s, 50s, and 60s, but they were all just dancing in the aisles. It was like outside of it must have been like a summer's day at Wembley Stadium, and everybody was just having so much fun, and I love seeing that with a crowd. The people aren't taking it seriously. They just they don't care how bad they look or how silly they look. They're all just dancing away and singing to each other. It is just fantastic. Really, really good. Right, Crystal, you're number 8 then, please.
Okay. I'm curious to see your reaction because I don't know if they're well known in the UK. But Stephen Page and Ed Robertson from Bare Naked Ladies.
Oh, I know the band very well. Yeah.
Okay. I love their wordplay. I've been a huge fan for longer than I care to remember. I went on 4 B&L cruises. I mean, hardcore into the band, and if you just put everything aside and look at the Big Bang Theory theme.
That's them, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
What
okay.
they shoehorn in there, and the facts, and how rapidly it goes by. It's like, how do you work Australopithecus into a song naturally? If I had $1 million, it's a fun song. It's like, if I had $1 million, I'd buy you a car.
I didn't realize that's who it was that did that song.
Yeah. And they have a song harkening back a little bit and called Be My Yoko Ono.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it's talking about I love you like John Lennon loved Yoko Ono that much. And if you break up my band, it's okay.
I'll put that on the
So
video playlist. I'll put that song
yeah,
on the video playlist because that's
yeah.
quite apt.
It is. They're great with their lyrics, and again, there's another one that they can do really dark lyrics in a really peppy melody, and you don't really realize that you're hearing a song about, falling off the ledge, washing windows. But
Mm.
their wordplay is fantastic.
Okay. So what were the guys' names again?
Stephen Page and Ed Robertson.
Right.
And
Okay.
Stephen Page actually left the band in 2009 and started a solo career.
Oh,
And
right.
his solo stuff is also very good.
Right. Okay.
Okay. That's something to add to the list, Neil, I think,
Yeah.
of our homework. Okay, then. Right, Neil, you're number 8 then, please.
It's none other than Peter Gabriel for me.
I thought you'd have him in there somewhere.
Yeah. I've been a huge fan. Well, obviously was introduced to him with his solo stuff that I knew first because my mum and dad had, I think it's number 4, which would have had solo. Number 4? Yeah. Peter Gabriel 4, and just got into him, then went back and discovered his early Genesis stuff. Now that's not for everyone. That's very proggy and very out there, but his solo stuff,
very Neil. That's very
Neil. Yeah. His solo stuff is just, it's sublime. He's not prolific. He takes 10-15 years to write an album, and it shows. I think he's never happy until he's he's ready to release it. So however long that'll take. Now I just got to hope I can get to see him next year in concert because he's just announced another tour.
Well, start saving up now, Neil. You might be able to just get some back row seats if you.
Well, I looked at the front rows and they were 186. Well, not front rows, but the blocks at the front.
Yeah.
186 pounds.
Is that all?
Yeah,
that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Well, it is when they're. When
I would snap them up, Neil. If you can get them at that price, I would snap them up.
There might as well be £1 million because I haven't got £186 at the moment. So,
well, if you had £1 million, you could buy one of Crystal's cars, couldn't you?
Right. Yeah. But I love his songs. Right from his ballads. We all know them. Right through to his upbeat ones. And I still think "So" is probably one of the greatest albums of all time.
Well, he sings my very favorite song of all time, which is "In Your Eyes."
Oh, beautiful song.
Great.
I mean, that was made very popular by that film "Say Anything," wasn't it? With John Cusack holding it up. But yeah, it's a beautiful song, and they do tend. I've been lucky enough to see him live anywhere about 5 or 6 times, and every show he's finished with that, and it's lovely. He brings all the guest artists out and they all sing it together. It's just superb, and the whole audience sings. I'd highly recommend it. It's a beautiful song.
Downside Up is one of my favorite ones of his.
Okay, that was from OVO, wasn't it?
Yeah, where he does that live when I think it's his daughter.
His daughter, and they're upside down, and
they walk in upside down on.
Yeah,
this big
that's the tour I saw.
Oh, was it?
Twice. Yeah.
I'll put that on the video playlist because that is like really, really clever the way they do it, and that's what he's good. He doesn't just sing his songs; that he performs his songs when he does.
He does, and that's what he gives you a stage show as well as a performance, which is absolutely fantastic. If you've seen the video of that show, he comes out in a huge hamster ball, one of those things, and goes around the stage. And I've got the DVD of the making of the tour, and he initially wanted to go out over the crowd and round the crowd on this big thing, and then the insurance people said, "We're just going to crush everyone." We wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, that's quite funny.
Okay, my number 8. If you have John Lennon, I feel you have to have George Harrison. So I've put George Harrison at number 8, mainly for the reason that he wrote, I think, my favorite Beatles songs,
right?
Which was "Something" and "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." Those 2 songs are my 2 favorite Beatles songs. But when you look at, my whole idea of George Harrison changed after watching the Get Back documentary, and the fact that I felt that he was always pushing against Lennon and McCartney, wanting his little space. And when he didn't get it, he decided to walk away. But when you watch him working out his songs, "I Me Mine" was one of them, wasn't it? I think you see him working out and stuff. And then a lot of his solo stuff. My Sweet Lord obviously is a great tune. Got My Mind Set on You. I love that one when it first came out. And When We
Yeah.
Were Fab was another one I think he had from that
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Cloud 9 album. So I think he's very underrated as a songwriter. But and maybe it is a bit controversial to have him above John Lennon, but the reason is, especially While My Guitar Gently Weeps, I think is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Well, there you go. That'll be why he's higher then.
There you go. And especially, like I've said before, I think on this podcast, the live version that was, I think, at a George Harrison tribute concert where Prince does a guitar solo. I don't know if you guys have seen that. One of the greatest guitar solos you will ever see. And it was Jeff Lynne, Tom Petty,
Yeah.
George Harrison's son was there, and they're all playing the song, all singing the song. Prince comes wandering on, puts a guitar on, just plays this, and he keeps looking to see, are we going to go again? Like, let's do it again. And and when he finishes, it's one of the greatest rock and roll moments I've ever seen. They finish the songs, they do like the thing where they hang on the chord, and then he picks the guitar up, throws it behind him, and just walks off. So someone else has to come in quick and catch the guitar, and he just walks off. So he doesn't worry if anybody's going to catch the guitar behind him or not. He just throws it up in the air and walks off. So there's no sort of saying hello to other members of the band. He comes in, does what he needs to do, and as Prince normally does, he just pisses off. Off he goes, and he doesn't give a shit because he's Prince. It's fantastic. I'll put that on the video playlist without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Is that the one when he leans back on the crowd while he plays?
Yes, I think it is.
That's phenomenal, isn't
I
it?
think
The
it
trust
is.
that he has.
Yeah.
Thank God he's only a diddy. But...
I know. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, and that's a weird thing. I haven't put Prince in my top 10. How mad is that? How have I not put Prince in my top? Anyway, that was my number 8. So, Crystal, your number 7, please.
Number 7 is the mistress of tearjerkers, Sarah McLachlan.
Oh, right.
Angel makes me cry every time I hear it. Can't help it. She co-wrote "I Will Remember You," which is one of the first songs that I ever heard that made me interested in her.
Right.
But she's got this way of weaving, very emotional imagery into these really haunting melodies, and it just, I've told people, if you hear me listening to Sarah McLachlan more than 2 songs in a row, please come check on me. Because as much as I love her, she's not an uplifting soul. So it's a very specific mood that you have to be in, I think, to listen to her for very long.
It's not an artist I've heard a great deal of.
Really?
I must get and have a good old listen.
It's When She Loved Me from Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
It's the one that breaks my heart every single time. Every single time.
Are her albums all as accessible? Each song on the album is accessible as the sort of hits, as I would say.
Her earlier stuff, her Fumbling Towards Ecstasy album had probably the most hits. Hold On and Possession and things like that. And then later she had Angel, and Sweet Surrender was in there somewhere. So she's not like a hit maker.
No,
she's more of like a Brandi Carlile or a Joni Mitchell, where she's great and you know her, but she's not getting up and playing the hits.
Yeah, it's just sometimes when you deep dive into somebody's album, you get the hits or the known songs, and then the rest of the album sometimes to me feels like fillers.
No, you're not going to get that with Sarah McLachlan. She wants to rip your guts out. In 7 to 9 consecutive songs.
Right, it's on my list.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have a deep delve into that.
Yes, I think she's. You've only got to go on TikTok and you'll hear a lot of her sad songs when there's ever a sad video that people. You
Oh, I
know,
won't go on
Angel is
TikTok.
one that, like, it doesn't, if it's about a dog that's being put down, or if it's somebody that's got like a terminal illness, that'll be the song that they'll link and
Okay.
play in it. You'll hear it at least 50 times on different really sad videos. Yeah. Okay then, Neil, you're number 7 then, please.
Well, likewise, some people find this artist very, very depressing, and some of his songs are. Leonard Cohen.
Wow. I thought that would be your number 1.
No, not quite.
Okay. Well, no, obviously, no, it's number 7. But I thought.
No, I'm a huge Leonard Cohen fan. His songs mean a lot to me. I grew up listening. It was an accidental discovery. I can't remember whether it was my parents or whether it was my auntie and uncle that had. I can't remember the name of the album. Anyway, when I used to play it on the vinyl and fell in love with his deep voice. And then started to really listen to the lyrics, and then they meant a lot with me. And then when I went through my hard times, which everybody gets them, he was there for me, if that makes a lot of sense. So he helped me through a lot of shit, and I explained it on a previous one, you know, If It Be You Will, why it meant so much, and a lot of his songs did that to me, and it's the lyrics. And I get it why people don't like him and why people find it hard to listen to him, but yeah, it's just that I've grown up with it, and it means a hell of a lot to me. To me, it's a sad loss. We've had a huge sad loss.
It's weird, because like he is sort of, well, in my mind, he's thought of as someone that does very depressing music and lyrics, and so the fact that you were going through a hard time, and that was what sort of helped you through it.
Well, if you think of the classic, which is actually not one of my favorite of his songs, but Hallelujah, which is covered beyond death. If you actually listen to the lyrics, you got a very sad song, but the lyrics are actually uplifting in a certain ways, you know? Yeah. And that's what he does a lot. You know, he's got the uplift and the tragedy of whatever's going on. And I don't know, I just find it more that I'm relating to it, whether it's because I'm listening to it at the time that I've been through the bad times or whatever has happened. And I still listen to him a lot now, and it makes me feel, well, almost comfort or in a better place. Are you a fan, Crystal, of Leonard Cohen?
I am. I'm not to the extent. For me, a little Leonard Cohen goes a long way, but I have mad respect for him.
What would you say would be the like accessible album or whatever of Leonard Cohen?
I would say if you're on any of the streaming services, just put on the playlist, because that'll be the easiest way. Because with every one of his albums, there's going to be songs that, you know, even that they've taken me sometimes a while to actually appreciate them and for them to grow on me. But my favorite album is Various Positions. I think it's just, you know, you've got, if Leonard Cohen can do an uplifting song or an upbeat song, it's got that on there, and it's got the very melancholy song and everything like that. But that's the album that's my favorite album at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That is a surprise. I must admit, that was a surprise. I put Leonard Cohen on the thumbnail specifically for you, because I thought, well, I'm going to put him on there because he's going to be Neil's number 1, so I'm going to put him on there. So there you go. Okay, my number 7, part of a duo, but also a massive solo star, and it's Paul Simon.
He nearly made my top 10. He really did.
My number 4.
He's your number 4.
Oh, yeah.
I think the one thing I was saying about like Jagger and Richards and people like that, is there anybody around these days that writes protest songs or writes songs that sort of really mean something? Because I got a feeling that people like Paul Simon were at the vanguard, you know, were at the forefront of that kind of thing, where a lot of their songs actually sort of meant something, not just meant something within the song, but meant something to like that generation of people. Because there's a lot of shit going on all the time, isn't there? You know, there's wars going on all the time, but I don't know, Paul Simon seemed to be one of those people that sort of captured what people felt at that particular time. And talking about somebody that makes songwriting look so difficult, because just watching him play Sound of Silence, how he's finger picking that guitar and making it look so easy, and just the intricacies of his melodies and his harmonies. Amazing that he's only number 7 in my top 10, because as a songwriter, well, in my mind, there are 6 people that are better than him.
Yeah.
But there's someone that, you know, I mean, even going into the 80s with You Can Call Me Al and Boy in the Bubble and all the Graceland stuff, and what, I remember the album was after that, but yeah, just an amazing songwriter. So yeah, number 4 for you, Crystal.
Yeah, April Come She Will is my favorite. It's not one that a lot of people know, but if you pull it up, it's a gorgeous song. Gorgeous song. And then, you know, you've got Cecilia and Bridge Over Troubled Water. Yeah, The Boxer and Kodachrome.
Kodachrome.
Which is just that sense of, you know, the memories and wanting to keep things and capture things. And yeah, it's, I don't know how he conveys what he conveys. I like you said, I don't know how he does that.
No, with the songs that he wrote when it was Simon and Garfunkel, if he'd have just quit, he'd have got in the Hall of Fame. But the fact that he then went on and solo and Still Crazy After All These Years, Slip Sliding Away, just songs that are just absolutely fantastic. You know, and he got to sleep with Carrie Fisher as well. I mean, what more do you need?
Right.
I mean, goodness me. I mean, how much win can there be for a man? I mean, goodness me.
Yeah.
I wonder if he got her to dress up like Princess Leia. I mean, I don't know. He might have done.
His own Mrs. Robinson.
His own Mrs. Robinson. But yes, so you're number 4, my number 7. Not in your top 10, Neil, no?
No, well, that's what I said. It kept going in and out, but I used everybody, like I said earlier, that meant something to me. It's got meaning. And not that they don't, but yeah.
Okay.
It's in my honourable mentions. I mean, I've got a list as long as your arm down there.
I think we're all probably the same with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then, Crystal, you're number 6 then, please.
Number 6, again, not sure how popular she is in the UK, Stevie Nicks.
Oh, I love Stevie.
Right?
I'd marry her tomorrow.
Oh my God. You know, the original Gypsy. You know, and Landslide. You know, she wrote that about, you know, difficult relationship with her father, and I related to that because I had the same sort of thing. I'm like, I feel you, Stevie. I feel you. And you know, Edge of 17, Landslide. I mean, she has just got it. I mean, you know, and add into that, she's got that voice.
Yeah.
But even if you take that out and you just look at her songs, I mean, they're gorgeous and complex.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the one she wrote about Lindsey Buckingham that went on the album, didn't it? Rumours album. Oh, I'm sure it was the Rumours album. Anyway.
Oh, it had to have been, because that's when they did all. That's when they had all of their drama.
Well, and
that's
Tusk
what made the Rumours
as well, wasn't it? Yeah.
so good. Yeah, and Tusk.
Yeah. Yeah. She wrote songs obviously for Fleetwood Mac as well. You know, obviously with the help musically with Lindsay. But yeah, I don't
know. Is it Never Going Back Again?
Yeah, I think it was actually.
Is that the one?
I think it is. Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it wouldn't be You Make Loving Fun, would it? Wouldn't be that one.
No. Yeah,
definitely not.
Depends on the day, I guess.
And to think if you watch, there's a great Fleetwood Mac documentary that talks about all the troubles and everything like that, or was it just about the making of the Rumours album, whichever it is, but the amount of cocaine that woman was snorting, it's a wonder that she ever managed to keep going.
You could probably say that about a hell of a lot of people from the 70s, couldn't you?
But even people like there's rumored that even people like Elton John was saying, you better slow down a little.
Bloody hell.
She put a hole clean through her nose with that.
Yeah, she did.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you got Elton John telling you to calm down, you know you're in serious trouble.
Yeah.
Don't you? I mean, goodness, especially 70s Elton John.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so. Go on then, Neil. You're number 6.
Now, Crystal might not know who this is, and this is my own little love. It's a guy called Fish, and he was the lead singer of a band called Marillion. And Marillion mean a lot to me in the 80s. They were my band and things, and I still love them to death. He left at the height of their success to go on his own, Some say to copy like Peter Gabriel, but think what you will. But I love his song. His ability to write lyrics is phenomenal. And how he manages to sing them, God only knows, because how he ever bloody remembers them. He's not into the lyrics that rhyme. He's into a storybook of lyrics. And it means a lot to me. Like I said, I grew up with him, listening to him, and now I've managed to even speak to him personally, which is always great. So yeah, I had to put him in there. Now so he's a lyricist more of a songwriter more than a musician of a songwriter. He admits he can tinkle on a piano to write this, get what he wants, but it's all about the lyrics.
So are there particular songs I should seek out?
Right. Well, if you go with Marillion, I mean, he did 4 albums with them in the 80s, starting Script for a Jester's Tear, Fugazi, which was their early stuff and very hippie. Misplaced Childhood is probably their most famous one with the single Kaylee. I don't know whether that was a hit over in America. And then Clutching at Straws. He writes a lot. He's from Scotland, so he writes a lot about Scottish culture, Scottish ways. I would say start at the beginning if you want a deep delve, but I apologize if you don't like it because it is very proggy.
But Misplaced Childhood would probably be the most sort of accessible, wouldn't it? The most sort of commercial.
That's when he was in the band, so it's in the band Marillion. So
yeah. Kaylee is a great song. Lavender, is it Lavender? Just Lavender?
Yeah, which is obviously a children's nursery rhyme that they turned into a song.
But Kaylee is a great 80s
biggest
classic.
hit. I mean, it would have been number 1 if it hadn't been for Ferry Across the Mersey.
That's true.
At that time. Yeah,
absolutely true. Yeah. There you go, Crystal. You've got homework.
A bit of homework.
Yes, I do.
I think like Pav said, I think Kaylee and that is just. I think it'd be fine. That is literally an ode to his old girlfriend called Kaylee. His first love, and there's the song, and it's a lovely. I mean, the lyrics are beautiful. I think
it is a great song.
Yeah,
great song.
Pav does a great version of it.
I sang it. I did a Facebook Live last week and sang it for your mum because she asked for it. So but I'll tell you, it's a tough one to sing.
I can imagine.
Tough one to sing because, like you say, there are a lot of lyrics forced into a very small little gap. So you got to get it right, otherwise you just like trip over your tongue all the time. But okay, my number 6 is another duo, and we just mentioned him actually. Is Elton John and Bernie Taupin.
Honourable mentions for me.
Honourable mentions. Number 3. I think with and I will put this on the video playlist. There's some fantastic footage of the 70s where they're doing a documentary about Elton John, and they're talking about the way that they write their songs. They do it in separate rooms. Bernie Taupin will send him some lyrics, and he just casually just goes like, I've got this one here, and takes it off the top of his piano. And he said, this is one called Tiny Dancer, he said. So I just start playing some chords, and he said, Blue Jean Baby. And he's just like tinkering on it and just sort of working it out. And it's a song that's like as legendary as Tiny Dancer. And you see it just at the start when he's just working out how to play it. And the fact that there was an album out a few years ago called 2 Rooms, where a lot of famous people covered Elton John and Bernie Taupin songs. Right. And there was some fantastic, I've never been able to find it anywhere. It's not on any streaming service. It's not on like Apple Music or anything. But it makes you realize that for them, not working together, as in the same room, but working apart, worked for them. And again, I've spoken about Elton John songs on like 70s albums and 70s and loads of other episodes that we've done. As a hit ratio, I think, as in singles especially, there isn't many people as good as Elton John and Bernie Taupin when it comes to writing classic 70s.
I mean, it showed that they needed to be together.
Yeah,
because when he went alone, or whatever that awful dance thing that he did. Do you remember in the 80s when he was on his own?
Yeah.
Oh, it was dreadful, wasn't it?
He did a couple of albums that weren't particularly good, did he? But
but
no. So, Crystal, number 3 for you.
Number 3 for me is Carole King.
Oh, no. Elton John was number 3 for you. Sorry.
Sorry. I'm on number 5.
Oh yeah, no, just asking you what, in regards to Elton John. Sorry.
Oh God, I am like. What? It's my turn. Oh Lordy.
Yeah, no, I was asking you about Elton John.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Elton John. Um, like you said, so many songs. I happen to have a soft spot in my heart for The Bitch Is Back.
Yeah, great tune.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those just that's it.
Mm,
Deal with me.
yeah.
Um, um, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I mean, then you've got, the massive hit Candle in the Wind.
Yeah.
I mean, just it. One thing I really like about him is there's not an Elton John sound. Like you look at like a Sarah McLachlan or a Stevie Nicks, and that's one of their songs. Elton John songs sound different from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. Considering that he plays and obviously writes his stuff on the piano, things like Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting and The Bitch Is Back are great rock songs. That are like mainly guitar based. And he's great at Kiss the Bride is another great one from the 80s that he did, which is another great sort of really good rock sort of song rather than just a piano based song. But no, that's good points there. And also we know what your number 5 is now, I think.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine.
Skipped ahead. I'm really good at like just trying to stay on task.
Okay. So actually, Crystal, what is your number 5?
My number 5, big surprise, is Carole King.
Okay.
Lord, I'm so sorry for screwing up the pun.
No, that's fine. That was my fault. That was my fault.
It was mine.
Okay. So why Carole King?
She was one of those forerunners in like women's empowerment, personal growth kind of thing. You look at Tapestry, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, I Feel the Earth Move, You've Got a Friend, So Far Away, Walk On By, and of course she sings the theme song to my very favorite show of all time, which is Gilmore Girls, and the song is Where You Lead. So I love the idea of this woman who's coming into her own and speaking her mind, but with a soft voice.
Right. See, now I didn't realize I've only ever known Carole King and Tapestry. I didn't realize she wrote all those other songs.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that at all. So it's and I think that's it with a lot of these people that are mainly songwriters, that you don't realize a lot of like I was looking, Smokey Robinson was nearly in my top 10 because I looked at the songs that he's actually written and I thought, oh my God, he wrote My Girl. And he wrote, you think, Jesus, and these are all these classic songs. So I didn't realize that with Carole King. I didn't realize she wrote Walk On By and things like that.
And prior to Tapestry and becoming a performer, she wrote in, I don't know if you're familiar with this, the Brill Building, which was basically a songwriting factory in the 60s.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so she and Jerry Goffin, who was her husband, they wrote a lot of hits for like Leslie Gore and I forget who else, but yeah, she wrote a lot of hits for other people in the 60s.
Wow.
Have you seen her musical, Crystal? Well, the musical of her songs.
I have not. I would like to. It's one that I have not seen, but I've heard it's fantastic.
Yeah, I've been told it's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I've not seen it, so. And she did British Summertime in the UK only like 3 or 4 years ago, just before COVID. She did.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw clips of that on. It must be on YouTube, but yeah, I'll put some clips of that on the video playlist if it's on there. Yeah. Okay, then Neil, you're number 5.
So we've already talked about him. Prince. He is my number 5. I mean, there's a guy that can turn his hand to any song. Wrote for other people, a lot of other people. As well, I think he was just a natural born songwriter. He's a natural born musician as well, wasn't he? He apparently could play 12 instruments, to the top standard. I can't even name 12 instruments. That's the thing. But we spoke about him so much on a lot of the other podcasts. I think the guy was a genius, and I think he was gone very much too soon.
Yeah,
he had so much more to give.
I mean, he was somebody that lived in, as Kevin Smith very rightly said, in Prince's world, didn't he?
Yeah,
and
he was in his own world. But
yeah, and it was said that like Paisley Park, every single room in the house had the facility to record. So wherever he was, if he needed to, he could press record and start playing and writing stuff wherever he was in the house or in the compound complex or whatever it is. But I don't know if they still do it. But you could go and have tours around Paisley Park, couldn't you?
I wouldn't mind doing that. It'd be interesting.
Once he passed away. So that would be amazing.
It would be interesting to go and see it all, wouldn't it? But you think, I mean, it was quite a long career, but in the scheme of things, he had so much more to give.
Yeah.
Think how many bloody songs that guy wrote.
Oh my God, yeah. They said that there's in the Prince vault, there is enough, I think enough material to release an album a year for like the next 30 years.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's just crazy, yeah. But so prolific.
Yeah. And so good as well.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Absolutely. Okay, my number 5 was Benny Anderson and Bjorn Jevelius, whatever his name is. Hello, family. Big summer blowout. Number 4, Crystal, you said was Paul Simon.
Paul Simon, yes.
Yep. So Neil, what's your number 4?
So it's our David Bowie.
David Bowie.
David Bowie. I think it's another artist that changed the face of popular music. We had the Beatles. We've spoken about the Beatles. We've spoken about the Stones and people like that from the 60s. But I think Bowie did it as well. He made things a bit more acceptable. It was acceptable to be a little bit different, I think Bowie brought to the table. But not only that, he brought great, great music from the very start, timeless music. Excuse me. I did sort of fall out with him a little bit in some of the 80s stuff. I didn't go too much on it. But then he sort of rediscovered it. And his last album with Lazarus and everything on there, I've fallen in love with now again. Sort of, I didn't listen to it. I felt a bit sort of morbid to listen to that last album, but now I'm completely in love with it. Lyrics are superb, the music's superb, and we forget he was a talented musician. People talk about his songwriting and lyrics, but let's not forget he was a good good musician himself. And yeah, I'm just glad he still played a lot. There was this awful worry at one time when they all passed in that dreaded 2016 where everybody went, that I thought he might get a little bit forgotten, but thankfully not. And I think he needs a lot of credit of what he changed in the musical scene.
He wasn't one of those artists that sort of changed with the times. He was one of the artists that made the times change.
That's right. Exactly. Well put, Pav. Yeah.
He was always on the curve rather than being the one that was following the curve. And I think that was one of the things about him that was unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I used to be scared of him a little bit when I was younger. We had the Hunky Dory album, which is probably still my favorite. And then my brother or somebody had the Man Who Fell to Earth, a poster of him as the alien. It always creeped me out. And I still think of it when I see him.
I think Ziggy Stardust used to freak me out.
Yeah.
I think. But it was that thing. That's what he wanted, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
To not look like a normal person, to challenge.
Yeah.
Sort of like, well, here I am. What do you think of me? What am I?
He was like the original non-binary, wasn't he? He was the original.
Yeah.
Back then, it was just the norm for him. So
yeah. And there was always little bits of controversy with him, wasn't it? Like the China Girl video, I can always remember.
Yeah.
Where it got banned because there was just a little bit of rumpy pumpy in there somewhere.
When we all wanted to watch it, didn't we?
And we all stayed up late to watch it because they'd have the uncut
4.
video. Yeah. Oh, I remember those days as well. Yeah.
A rumpy pumpy.
For me, seeing him in Labyrinth in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
I mean, who else could have played the Goblin King?
I know.
He was amazing.
Who else could fill that codpiece like he did?
Right? Yeah. I still wonder if that was all Bowie.
Yeah. We'll never know.
Wow. We'll ask her, what was her name? Who's it? Iman?
Jennifer Connelly.
Iman.
Oh, Iman,
Jennifer
yeah, his
Connelly.
wife.
Iman
Yeah.
was his
we'll
wife.
ask
Yeah,
her.
yeah, yeah.
She never had any complaints. So.
I'm sure she didn't. I'm sure she didn't. Oh dear. Okay, my number 4 is the boss, Bruce Springsteen. Now, I've fallen in love with Bruce Springsteen over the last, I don't know, 20 odd years, more every day. And I think every time you see clips of him live, or you see the YouTube videos of his 3.5 hour shows, where and I don't know, he's got to be in his 60s now, in his late 60s, I would have thought.
No, early 70s, yeah.
Early 70s.
Yeah, he was on the Zoe Ball breakfast show, which is a huge breakfast show in this country, and he was on Monday morning live on the radio, because he's got a new album
He has, yeah. It's for the soul covers, isn't it?
It is, and they're really good.
He does a version of Night Shift, the old Commodores song, which is really good.
And so he was there talking, and he said, I'm in my 70s now, but I still don't go to bed at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Really? I mean, he's the ultimate rocker, I feel.
Yeah.
There was a great, as much as I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Fallon, there was a great bit of video of footage of him talking about the lyrics from, oh God, what was the song? Screen Door Slams, Thunder Road.
Oh, yeah.
And he was saying about, because Jimmy Fallon asked him on that lyric, Screen Door Slams, Mary's Dress. Now he said, is it sways or is it waves? And Springsteen was saying, he said, he had the album, he had the Born to Run, is it Born to Run album? I think it was a Born to Run album. And he said during those days, he said, I was so meticulous. I was like, it's perfection. I made sure that everything was perfect about my albums, about my records. He said, and if you open it up and you read it, he said, now I've, for the last 40 years, have sung the song, Mary's Dress Sways. And he said, and he read the lyrics, and the lyrics in the album says Mary's Dress Waves. So he said the album is wrong. He says, but as an artist, he just seems to have that knack of being able to put into words stuff that a normal person would feel, but in a way that makes you feel like either you're something special, or that you are a lost soul finding something or looking for something. I don't think there's anybody like him. I really don't. And sometimes there are songs you can tell. There's a song that you think that's a Springsteen song, but there are moments in songs that you think that is. There's a couple of songs of his. One that he had from an album, that Western Star, a couple of years ago, called Hitchhiking, and there's a couple of little lines in there that you think that is just Springsteen, just to a T. In a couple of chords and a couple of words. It's fantastic. So not in either of your top 10s.
Honorable mentions.
Wow.
Yeah, honorable. I put him as an honorable mention.
That's fair enough. Okay, so Crystal, Elton John and Bernie Taupin was your number 3.
Yep.
So Neil, your number 3.
So if I say this name, Mark Oliver Everett, does anybody know who that is? No. He's known as E, and he's from the band Eels. Do you know the band, Crystal?
No, I have not heard of them.
LA band. Another band that I've been with from the journey from the start. Of course, I was in my 20s. They released their album in the mid-90s. Loved it, and have subsequently followed him since. And again, he writes to what I feel to me, if that makes sense. So a lot of his songs resonate hugely with me, and what's going on and what's being done and things like that. So yeah, I just had to put him there because of the way I followed his career, been to see him live and everything. Again, I know they're not for everyone, and they do very much. He does very much. It's either full out, I'm not going to say rocky, let's say a full out funky tune, or he does a very good ballad. I don't know. I admire his songwriting immensely.
That's from Eels, yeah?
Eels, yeah.
Right.
Not to get confused with the Mighty Boosh's Eels.
Okay.
They are.
Fair enough. Oh, he's one of your favourites. You've mentioned him on that band
numerous
times.
Yeah, and well, you know how many times I've been to see them. I even took my son to see them as his very first gig.
There you go.
Wow.
And he's been thanking you ever since, hasn't he?
Oh, he loved it. Yeah, well, it's giving him the bug. So
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay. My number 3, if you're going to have songs and songwriters, anybody that has listened to all of our music podcasts will know I have to have this man in because I love him. And it's Lin-Manuel Miranda. It doesn't matter. Any angle that I can get Lin-Manuel Miranda in there. If you want to talk about great songs, but songs that are complicated, that how the hell did he write these songs and put these songs together? Even if you just talk about Hamilton and you look at those and you think, how did he do that? How did him as a man, as flesh and blood and bones and muscles and sinews and brains and just able to come up with things like that? And then also go on to everything else that he's done, whether it's written for Moana or Encanto. I'm in his groove. As I've said before, anything that guy does, I am just there for. And it's just crazy. It was crazy that it took me like a year and a half to watch Encanto. It was crazy that I didn't really think it was because of lockdown that I watched Hamilton the first time. And now I'm in love with everything that man does. So I don't know what anybody else feels about him, but
I'm right there with you. I was fortunate enough to see Hamilton on Broadway. I did not see original cast,
right.
So I did not see Lin there, but I am right there with you. I'm in love with everything he does.
He's a great songwriter, and the fact that he was it last year with Encanto, he managed to get a hit with the song, which has been a long time coming from a Disney film, you know, that it was at #1 for however long.
Yeah, we don't talk about Bruno. Yeah,
that's it. It was huge,
and it was really strange because obviously with the fact that we've got like little grandkids that like just devour Disney films, and you have to put them on just to keep them quiet.
Yeah.
So I'd put Encanto on for like my granddaughter and just think, right, I'll leave her to it. And, you know, and it didn't even occur to me that it was Lin-Manuel Miranda until I saw a documentary, like a little making of. I thought I didn't realize he was involved in that. So I sat down the next time with my granddaughter and I was bawling my eyes out because it was so beautiful. But some of the songs are just like great, energetic, you know, songs. But you know, I can't remember the name of the song now, but the sort of sad, the couple of sad ones that are in it, and I was just in pieces. And he's got that knack with me, you know. It's Quiet Uptown, which is the one from Hamilton. That when we went and saw it in London, that must have been a couple of years ago now. Luckily, everybody was wearing masks because it was still COVID times, so nobody could see me blubbering and crying like just a little wuss. When It's Quiet Uptown, it's a beautiful song, but it is heartbreaking. I won't spoil it for anybody. Have you seen Hamilton yet, Neil?
Hands up, apologies.
Neil, come on, you've got to do it. If not, I'm gonna come around your place and sit there with you and make you watch it.
part of me wants, because you know I do like to go to the theatre a lot.
Yeah.
So part of me wants to go and see it rather than watch it on the telly. So I've put it on the list for next year to go to the theatre.
But I would say watch it on the TV first because it is the OG cast.
Yeah. But then if it's that good, and then the live version, I know it should be.
The live version was fantastic, but they're just not as good as the OG cast. They're just not.
Right.
And
well,
that's no disrespect to the
period.
Yeah, no disrespect to the guys and gals that are doing it. It is they are fantastic, but you got to watch it with the original crowd. But yeah, so number 3 for me, Lin-Manuel Miranda. Crystal, your number 2, please.
Number 2 is Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys.
Honorable mention for me.
Yeah, growing up in Southern California, you know, they were part of the soundtrack of my life, and you know, Darlin' is a beautiful song. And then you get into the whole, you know, wouldn't it be nice, and In My Room, and Surfer Girl, and
Good Vibrations.
It just evokes such, at least for me, such specific memories. And I think even, you know, for those who are, you know, didn't grow up near the beach like I did, it paints a picture of a time and place and an idyllic setting and an idyllic way of growing up. And I think he's absolutely brilliant. I mean, you go back to, we've talked a little bit about, sometimes the lyrics or the melodies are so simple, but I compare it to cooking because one of the tests of a good chef is, can they make eggs?
Mm.
Can they make a good egg? It's a very simple thing, but it's hard to do. Same thing here. It seems so simple, but it's not easy to do. And he's a wackadoodle genius.
He indeed. Perfectionist
But,
as well, isn't he?
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, no, that's a great one.
It is a
You
great
Beach
choice,
Boys
actually.
fan, Neil?
I am. They're the ones. They're the sort of band that I will listen to and then forget about for a while to listen to. Does that make sense?
Mm.
They're not on a continuous thing on my playlist, and I don't know why. It's probably because I keep forgetting about it.
Yeah.
But
I think they're
that's
one of the
me,
ones
not them.
you can take for granted, can't you?
Yeah, you
It's the
really
Beach
do.
Boys, it's like surfer music, but then when you dig down, you know,
And then
Little
you
Saint Nick
realise-
was always one of my favorite Christmas
Yeah.
ones
Is
as
it?
well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was on one of the like compilation Christmas albums I had when I was like a kid.
I
and it
mean,
was
I
always-
grew up with Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
It was one of them, the vinyl that was in the cupboard that would get played. So I don't know why. I've got to rectify this now.
Indeed, you
Yeah.
have.
But no, I do listen to them, on occasion.
Okay, then go on then, Neil, you're number 2.
Well, this is the chap that I thought you would have thought I had at number 1, is Eddie Vedder.
Oh, right.
Pearl
Okay.
Jam. Now he's moved higher up because I'm still buzzing from seeing them in the summer on the tour. And like I said before, I got treated to go into the Gold Circle for my birthday, and I've just still in love. Ooh. Yeah,
Had to do that. Sorry.
nature. But obviously he writes the lyrics for Pearl Jam. They work as a unit to write the whole song. But he's got his solo stuff, and I think speaks volumes to how it feels sometimes. His song Society, whether you know that, it's from the movie Into the Wild. I think it's just a beautiful song. I find it fascinating, and people say, "Oh, I don't understand what he's saying," and I get that, but read the lyrics and then find out that he is singing just poetry sometimes. And his new album I've fallen in love with, and now they've released a deluxe part of it. I just can't stop listening to it at the moment. It's taken over my airwaves. So yeah, I'm going to give him right up there at number 2 because
I respect that.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't get Pearl Jam.
Well, have you listened to his solo stuff?
I've not listened to his solo stuff, but part of it, I did do like I did with Radiohead. I had an afternoon of listening to Pearl Jam, and I can't. I mean, look, I don't want to disrespect you, Neil, as well, because I know how much you love them. But like I think I said to you, didn't I? There was one song, I can't remember what it was, that actually made me laugh.
Oh, did it? What?
And I
Because you
can't
couldn't
remember
understand what he was saying?
Well, no, because it just seemed to me like it was a comedy song, and I said to you about it, and I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And you actually said, I don't know. I'll have to try and find it because
I can't
I was.
remember what song.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'll have to try and find out what song it was. But I didn't want to disrespect you because I know how much you love them.
Yeah, I do. Always
it's
have
also-
since 91.
Yeah, it's also like it is when you said that you can't understand what he's saying. So here with a
I mean, the famous one is the song Yellow Ledbetter. I would honestly say, listen to it and think what he's singing, because
Okay.
even I don't know the lyrics to that one.
What's it called?
Yellow Ledbetter is an absolutely beautiful song, and it wasn't
Yellow
even an album
Ledbetter.
track.
Okay, I'll put that on the video playlist.
But you need to watch it with lyrics, because even
Okay.
I can't do that one. It's like, whoa. Okay. But I think he's a genius songwriter, and he is,
Yeah.
his solo stuff. And he's such an accomplished musician that people don't give him the credit for. He really is. I mean, when you sit and watch him finger pluck the guitar like he does, it's just, I find it phenomenal.
Fair play.
And he did a whole album on the ukulele as well.
Did he? Well, there you go. He's gone right up in my estimations. Then, if he's a uke, if he's a uke player, then goodness
He
me.
is.
Maybe
Yeah, he's
I'll
done
have
a
listen
great
to that then.
song. They've put it on the deluxe bit of the Earthling album with Cat Stevens.
Oh,
He's
right,
playing the
okay.
ukulele. Cat Stevens is singing, and then I think it's his daughter does the backing vocals for.
Oh, right.
And it's absolutely, I think it's a lovely little ditty. It's literally about 2 minutes long, and I think it's great.
I'll have to look out for that then. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the gateway I need in to Eddie
Yeah, well,
Vedder
maybe
then,
it's
is
the
the
solo
ukulele
stuff. Like
album.
my son prefers his solo stuff because
Oh,
he
right.
finds it a bit calmer.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas like Pearl Jam, you could get bashed out by the heavy as well as having the more mellow stuff. Whereas his solo stuff is a lot more mellow.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let's give that a go, eh? Okay, my number 2 is someone that I think it was 1983. The BBC had a live. He was playing at Wembley Arena live, and they did like in 2 parts for some reason. I don't know why, but it's Billy Joel, and it was during the Innocent Man tour, and for some reason, yeah, they had the first half of the gig live, and then they did the second part of it. I think they showed it the following night at like 10:30 or something stupid. I don't know what it was, but I fell in love with all the songs then, and I bought the Innocent Man album, and then I went back right to the start, Cold Spring Harbor, where he sounds like Chip and Dale, because they apparently got the mixing or mastering of the album wrong, so it is at a wrong speed, so his voice is a little bit higher. But there's some beautiful songs in there. And then I bought every single album and carried on until like his last proper album, which I think Stormfront was his last proper album, because he sort of stopped doing.
When would that have been?
Pop, so that would have been
in the early 90s.
Early 90s, yeah. So like River of Dreams and all of that kind of stuff. And then that was the last album that he sort of did properly. I mean, he's doing, I think, doesn't he do monthly shows at Madison Square Garden? I think
he still does, yeah.
He plays a lot there, and he does periodically he has a station on Sirius XM.
Oh, does he?
Right. He does shows for, yeah.
Right. I've seen him, I think 3-4 times live.
Would you go again?
Oh, I would go again. Yeah.
He's
I mean, he did play
Summertime next year.
Did he? But yeah.
No, next year he's in London next year.
Is he in London
doing
next
the big
year?
Hyde Park? Yeah.
Really? I mean, he's fantastic live, and he's another one a bit like Elton John in regards that he's done some kick-ass rock songs, considering he is a piano player. I
always think he looked the most unlikely rock star as well, doesn't he?
Without a doubt. And then the fact that he got to marry Christy Brinkley. I mean, goodness me. I mean, if it's like you ask Christy Brinkley, what do I find attractive about multi-millionaire Billy Joel? That's that's the kind of thing, isn't it? But I think my favorite album of his is Nylon Curtain, which is very Beatles, very Beatles influenced. But there are great songs. I'm trying to think. Street Life Serenade is the name of the album, and there's a song on there called The Great Suburban Showdown, which is all about somebody that is going back home and he doesn't want to go back home. He's got his life, and it is a fantastic song. It is just so melancholy and just like heart-wrenching, because he knows, he's going home to say goodbye, basically, which is one of the lines in the song. But yeah, I don't think there's a bad album from Billy Joel. So for me, that's my number 2.
Great choice.
Right then, before we get on to our number 1s, let's do a countdown from number 10 to number 2, Crystal. Then Neil will do the same. Then I'll do the same. Fire away.
Okay, number 10 is Dolly Parton. Number 9 is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode. Number 8, Stephen Page and Ed Robertson from Bare Naked Ladies. 7 is Sarah McLachlan. 6 is Stevie Nicks. 5 is Carole King. 4 is Paul Simon. 3 is Elton John and Bernie Taupin. And Brian Wilson comes in at number 2.
Wonderful. Neil?
Fantastic.
Same with you, please. You got to say his last name, though.
Oh, I'll just say number 10, Ben and Bjorn from ABBA. Number 9, Sam Cooke. Number 8, Peter Gabriel. Number 7, Leonard Cohen. Number 6, Fish from Marillion. Number 5, Prince. Number 4, David Bowie. Number 3, E from the Eels. Number 2, Eddie Vedder.
Well done. Why did you say it like that?
I was going to pretend to do that.
Okay. Mine is number 10, John Lennon. 9, Jeff Lynne from the Electric Light Orchestra. 8, George Harrison. 7, Paul Simon. 6, Elton John and Bernie Taupin. 5, Benny Andersson and Bjorn Ulvaeus. 4, Bruce Springsteen, the boss. 3, Lin-Manuel Miranda. And number 2, Billy Joel. So, Crystal, what is your number 1 songwriter of all time?
My number 1 is your number 2, Mr. William Joel.
Hey! Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, again, he's one of these people who can just craft a song, and he can tell a story, man. Piano Man and Scenes from an Italian Restaurant.
That's the ultimate story song, I think. That is the ultimate story song.
And then the one that touches my heart the most is the one he wrote for his daughter, Lullaby.
Yeah.
Love it. So he just runs such a gamut. And then, like you were talking about, with Innocent Man, I love the doo-wop feel to it, and For the Longest Time. And he's done so many different styles and done them well. And like you, I mean, I've seen him in concert several times, and I could see him 15 shows in a row, and he wouldn't have the same set list.
No, that's right.
He's got that many.
Yeah.
There's not many artists that can do that, is there?
No.
At all.
No. And it will still be songs that were hits, and it'll still be songs that people know. One thing that surprised me, because my favorite Billy Joel song of all time is from the Stranger album. It's called Vienna, and it wasn't a hit. It wasn't a hit song. And I played it one time, and my daughter went, "Oh, I love that song." I said, "Oh, do you know that song?" And it was in Princess Diaries or some Disney like kids film. And I thought, oh, that's so cool that like my daughter knows that song, because there is something about that song out of all. I mean, I love nearly every Billy Joel. There isn't many Billy Joel songs that I could think, I could do without that one, but that is my favorite. I'm so chuffed that that's your number 1. That is so cool. That is so cool. So Neil, is Billy Joel your number 1?
No, I'm afraid not.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Did I
music.
ruin the surprise at the very start of the podcast?
What? Who my number 1 is?
Yeah.
No, it's Timmy Mallet.
Timmy Mallet. Crystal's not going to know who Timmy Mallet is.
No, of course not. He was a children's entertainer in the UK. He was shit.
Yeah.
Crystal, let's be honest, he was shit. Now, originally, I wrote Lennon and McCartney because the way they, had put them on the my number 1, they labeled themselves for all their songs, and the way they work together. So I will say John Lennon, because I've got most of his solo stuff over Paul McCartney's, but I find their Beatles stuff fascinating still now to this day, that they managed to do what they did together and the songs they wrote. We've talked about all these other artists, mind-boggling, but for what little they had to what they produced and then what they became,
just so we can all talk about it, Paul McCartney is my number 1.
Is it? Okay.
So Paul McCartney and John Lennon.
Lennon and McCartney.
Yeah, so Lennon and McCartney. But yeah, carry on, Neil.
Yeah, I just find it fascinating that the two of them, what they achieved, what they did in such a short space of time as well, and the way they changed. I don't think we're ever going to see the likes of that again at all. I don't think we can. And, and the fact that everybody, I've never really met somebody that hates the Beatles. Now, I've met people that don't like all of the Beatles, but will like a Beatles song. It's sort of like a phenomenon, isn't it, in itself, that there is that. But I also find John Lennon's solo stuff great. I perked up and said about Working Class Hero. I love that song, and I still think it's relevant today.
Yeah,
even more probably so. So yeah, let's put John Lennon and McCartney at number 1 for me.
So you're going to go Lennon and McCartney?
I'm going to put it like that, yeah, because it is. That's what I initially put, and it just I find it almost mind blowing what they achieved in such a short space of time. And I also will say about John Lennon, he's another character. You know, I wish I'd seen what he'd done. I wish we all had that experience of seeing what he'd done after.
Yeah.
You know, from now on, whether he'd still be doing the magic that he did, or whether that was all he had. And I don't know. It just blows my mind.
Well, the thing I'd say with McCartney as well is that he went through the Beatles stuff and came up with some of the most iconic songs of all time, the most successful songs of all time, the most popular songs of all time. Then went from that to Wings, where he then wrote some of the most successful and most popular songs of all time. Then went solo and did some amazing songs solo. I mean, look. Has his voice gone now? Should he sort of give up? Maybe he should. But I watched him at Glastonbury. I wasn't at Glastonbury.
No.
And it hit me then that the man is just a goddamn legend.
He is a legend.
You know, and I think people take advantage of him, and people will laugh at him. And the little clip I did was Meat Free Monday, which anybody that has listened to Kevin and Bean and that will know that is like not one of McCartney's highlights, you know. And you listen to some of his like new stuff, and it's not a patch, obviously, on, you know, 'cause he's probably used every chord in every way that he can over, what would it be, 50 years? No, 60 years?
60
it's
plus,
crazy.
almost. Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy.
There was one song he had recently that I thought was very good. It was just before lockdown, that last album he had. Was it Come Over Me or whatever it is?
Was it? Oh, God, are you sure?
Something
You're
like, no,
about
it was
Paul
in
McCartney now?
it became, not in a.
I think I know the one you mean.
Wink.
Yeah, it was quite a simple sort of song. Wasn't it?
But it was a typical McCartney song.
Yeah.
But it was so catchy. We talked about earworms before, and that had it straight there. And he's a master of it. But the two of them together, I mean,
yeah. Cool. I saw him live in '94, I think it was. What was the album that the My Brave Face?
Or was that '94? Was it?
Yeah, Flowers in the Dirt was the album that came out. And we went to Wembley, and he had a great band.
Wembley Stadium, was it?
Wembley Arena.
Oh, right, okay.
And before he came on stage, there were like screens, and it was flashing up images of the Beatles and Wings. And it hit me then, and I genuinely started crying because I thought, I'm going to see a Beatle. I'm going to see a Beatle. And he was amazing. It was like 2.5 hours, Springsteen-esque. Every song, like even the songs from the album that he was, you know, the Flowers in the Dirt were all hit songs. So, song after song. Fall on the Hill, you know, Live and Let Die, Long and Winding Road, Hey Jude. And it was just like, it was just, it was, I think it's the greatest live show I've ever seen, without a shadow of a doubt. And that just shows you, I think, like you say, you take for granted who he is now.
And he's 80 now.
And he's,
of course.
Yeah. And the fact that he's doing that, you know, he is just
I had friends that were there at the Glastonbury, and they stayed and watched him. He was near on 3 hours, wasn't he? Yeah. At 80. Well, he was like 80 the day after.
His voice is gone, you know, and
But he didn't need the voice. The crowd carried it nearly, and
exactly.
then he had obviously the backing singers, and he's surrounded himself with the world's best musicians. So
exactly. So, Crystal, which one are you a bigger fan of, Lennon or McCartney? Was that an impossible?
Probably McCartney. Yeah, it's like which child?
Yeah.
I would give the edge to McCartney.
Okay.
I feel like Lennon can be a little more self-indulgent.
Yeah.
But not to take away from either one of them. The main reason they weren't on my list is because I didn't have as personal a connection to their music as I had to, you know, the other things I had on my list. But I mean, it's hard to argue that, you know, together or separate, they're not the greatest.
Yeah. I mean, McCartney wasn't as political, I suppose, as John Lennon. That was the thing, isn't it? And that is whether you...
I don't know. Give Ireland Back to the Irish was a...
Well, but I mean, John Lennon was doing it from a very young time, wasn't he? I mean, he's more known as being your sort of outspoken...
And you can't get more political than... I mean, can you?
I thought you were going to play the frog chorus.
No. I mean, you know,
That's the most political song you did.
I'm getting worried that this podcast episode is going to get taken off the air because I'm playing. I mean, you can't get any more political than that, Neil. Come on.
Wow.
I'll put that video on the video playlist. Okay, so that everyone can see what we're talking about. Okay, honourable mentions. We only got a few here. So and why not pod said, I mean, it has to be Springsteen. Fantastic storytelling through great songs. At this one, Samantha said Amy Winehouse, straight from the heart. At FTLOL podcast said, like a good Disney song, especially Lion King and Aladdin. So Tim Rice. So Lion King was Tim Rice and was Elton John.
Elton John.
Yeah.
Nikki Dennis said Cat Stevens, Leonard Cohen, Carole King. How can I forget Neil Diamond, who of course wrote amazing songs for other people. Glenn Campbell, and my favourite, George Harrison. And at the God of Pod gave me his own 10. It was number 10, Shania Twain. Number 9, Ray Davis of the Kinks. 8, Kurt Cobain. 7, Paul Simon. 6, Ian Brown. 5, Axl Rose. 4, Kelly Jones from the Stereophonics. 3, Noel Gallagher. 2, John Lennon. And 1, Paul McCartney. So there you go. Crystal, we've done it again. Yay! We've done it. So before we say our thank yous and our goodbyes, Neil, do you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch with us? Are you ready?
Of course I will.
Go.
Email us at toptenpods@hotmail.com. You can ask us any questions you like or give us some any ideas for the top 10s you'd like to hear. You can find us on all the social media sites at Top 10 Pods. Do give us a click, give us a like, whatever you do on those. Come and help support the podcast at patreon.com. Guess what? /Top 10 Pods, where you can get all sorts of rewards, where even being a guest yourself on the pod is up for grabs. Check out all of our links via the Linktree. You can find the link in the show notes. So please do come and subscribe. Leave us a review and rating wherever you get those podcasts from.
Goodness me, that's going to be like flashcards on the YouTube channel. That is. This is going to be. But that was wonderfully done, Neil.
Yeah, but I don't want to keep repeating it slowly because people are going to go, oh.
Well, no, because you got to remember that like every episode could be somebody's first episode.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
That's what you got.
Well, they'll have to rewind and listen again. Then, won't
Indeed.
They?
And the other thing you got to remember is. Just remember that.
I've completely forgotten that.
Oh, dear. Anyway, Crystal, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it was such a fun time. I appreciate the invitation. Love it.
Well, you'll come and join us again in the new year, yeah?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your support, as always. It really means the world to us. And look out for something a little special in your letterbox. That sounds very dirty.
Postbox.
I didn't mean it to sound. I should give that one a little ding. Really, I didn't mean that to sound so bad. I'm sorry, Crystal.
Oh, you know what? I'll take a surprise in my box. I'm really...
Oh, wonderfully done. Thank you once again, Crystal. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Pav. Thank you, Crystal. It's been wonderful as always.
Indeed. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching and listening. And let's go start the countdown.